So today I've got three things I want to bring your attention to with Cronometer, which I generally really like, and I've got the gold package. Um, when I am starting a day and it asks me if I want to log repeat items that I've set up, I've got things like a breakfast smoothie here, and I'll just say yes, and it puts it in there. And one of the things I realized is when I've changed that recipe over time with some of the quantities, unfortunately, even though I've changed the recipe, the repeat item takes a stale snapshot of what the recipe was when I originally put it on repeat. It doesn't say, hey, I'm going to repeat breakfast smoothie for whatever its current definition is today on the new day that I'm entering the repeat item. I'm going to repeat what it used to be at the time the repeat was set up. So I would posit that this is not what a user would expect. We would expect that if we're modifying, say, my breakfast smoothie, and I've got it on repeat, it should take the latest incarnation of the breakfast smoothie, not for historic updating past entries, which is sometimes asked when I modify a recipe, but at least going forward, that is the logical, reasonable intent that should be inferred. So, for example, in this recipe, I've got um, different quantities here, and I might change um, some of the protein powder quantities, and I had that, and it wasn't taking in new entries. And when I realized this, I had to actually turn it off repeat and then restart the repeat, and then it took the latest um, sort of quantities and ingredients. But I shouldn't have to remember this every time I change a repeating recipe. So that's item number one. The second item is that there are, at least the way I use it, and I think this is a useful way, and other people might be using it this way, very common go-to meals with variations. And because of that, like I've set them up, so if I add a food, I've got this pancake variation, and so I use T for template and then pancake. Sometimes I have pancakes with a lot of protein powder. Sometimes I do more of a eggs and pancakes. So I've got a pancake meal here, and there's different ingredients. Here's another side note. When I look at this, I see all the micronutrients, but I'd like to just be able to scroll and see all of the ingredients and their um, quantities. I don't want to have to go here and say edit a recipe. I'm not trying to edit it, even though that's a way for me to see what's going on. It's really counterintuitive. I sometimes just want to see what is in that recipe. What did I add in there? So implying that I'm going to edit it or accidentally muck it up, that's not a good user experience for me. Just add another scrollable section at the bottom. Like vertical scrolling is cheap. It's okay. You can even have it minimized, and I'll tap some expand icon to then be able to see it. Chances are, when I'm looking at a recipe, I want to just when I'm looking at a food, I'd rather see the macronutrients that like the ingredients I've created with it before I'm even interested in the micronutrient nutrient target. Ask users when they look at a recipe what's more useful to them. It would be the ingredients, not the micronutrient targets. Now, I'm not saying don't have the micronutrient targets. I know that's a distinguishing feature of Cronometer compared to other food and meal trackers. But what I'm saying is even higher priority than that is just the basic ingredient list without implying that I'm going to go edit the actual recipe. Okay, so now I'm going to go add this to my diary, and it's going to go in meal two. All right. Now, like what I was mentioning, I would love to be able to configure a recipe or a meal um, with some kind of checkbox that says auto expand so that whenever I add it, it automatically explodes what's here. Like I have to do that manually every time. I think a lot of us are not using the recipes as exact quantities all the same time. Um, it's basically similar or set of ingredients, and then we're just kind of tweaking it based on what we do that day. And it may be that the protein scoop is supposed to be 35, but we actually dumped in 37 and we want to track that. Now I've got to explode the recipe myself, um, just to make that edit. So I would say give us users the power for when we add a recipe into our diary that it has a setting where it just auto explodes for us. So in this case, if I'm going to do more of an egg-based variation here, um, and sorry. Let's say I'm just going to do a protein-based variation. I've got eggs here and olive oil for cooking. I've even got bananas, which I'm not going to do. And instead of blueberries, I'm going to do mixed frozen berries. So you can see I've got some default quantities. A lot of these I've got at zero quantity, and I like that I can do that in Cronometer recipes because I can go in and then add an actual quantity. But sometimes I'm not going to use certain of these entries. So I might say, you know what? I've got no bananas. I didn't use frozen blueberries. I didn't use eggs. I didn't use olive oil spray. I didn't use olive oil itself. I didn't use any of the butter or the raspberries or walnuts. Um, and I didn't even use simply egg whites. So I've just got the frozen berries and I'm adjusting the protein quantity here. And I'm going to say 20. Now, this is what I typically do. But here, because it keeps on flashing that an item's been deleted from the diary, it's obscuring the save button. So here I am in the kitchen wasting my time until this UI cycles through 10 different deletions until I can go say save. That is really annoying. Like if I'm going to edit a quantity with a save button, put the deletion message somewhere else. Don't block the UI for me to continue doing things. I would even like a fast mode that says, I don't need you to waste 3 seconds and tie up the UI telling me you're deleting something. I'll just trust you. Just hit delete and like the Unix operating system, no news is good news. I've entered the command, just do it. Um, I don't need this flashing, interrupting UI, especially over top the very thing that I want to do to be able to get out of this particular ingredient and get onto something else. So this is the way I use it a lot, and the the current obscuring of the UI is very, very annoying. So I kindly request you guys to rethink the placement of that. And in fact, give me an expert mode where I don't need all the sort of babying flash messages, 3 seconds on screen or whatever. Just get it out of my way so I can get in and get out and get on with my day. Thanks for listening.